Stay tuned after the episode to hear our latest edition of And Then What. Cordelia, how are you doing?
Good. How are you, Fitz?
Good. So there is some weight in this world, and it's like, it's my own weight, and other people are going through more weight, and I know that. But like, I just needed a good story, you know? And like, goofy, weird stuff can have deep meaning. And sometimes it's got deep meaning because it makes us laugh. And sometimes it's got deep meaning because there's something wonderfully delightful about people taking bizarre chances and doing something cool and having a good time doing it. And that is what we had today. And I was just like reading through this thing. I was just like, I cannot believe this. Like, I cannot believe this. So for like 10 years, I worked at National Geographic. I helped them organize their National Geographic Adventures of the Year. Like, I would go through all these things that people had done in the world, like random stuff. I mean, some random things that were like considered firsts or strange things. And I have never heard anything like this. And it happens in Iowa.
Today, Caleb Smith is going to take us on a journey on wheels through the heart of Iowa. So get ready for some cornfields, some farm parties, and a lot of Midwestern charm.
I'm Fitz Cahal.
I'm Cordelia Zars.
You're listening to the Dirtbag Diaries.
I feel like everyone's always surprised at how much I love Iowa. It's a place you have to experience firsthand because most people, they end up just passing through Iowa. They drive through it on the interstate. They don't know much more than I-80, but it is like this multifaceted place with so much like beauty that's like hidden around every little corner.
This is Caleb Smith. He grew up on the border of Illinois and Iowa, and in his mid-20s, he moved to Des Moines.
The people here are super kind. Like everything's, a little bit slower than some of the other parts of the country. You're not always in a rush. You're not always like hectic. Like life is calmer here. So you can take time to unfold and enjoy what you're doing and not be so like worried about everything. Everybody thinks it's flat in cornfields, but we have rolling hills. We have up in the Northeast, we have these massive hills and beautiful bluffs. Incredible hiking, just like nature and scenery that Iowa gets looked over for often.
One day, about 10 years ago, Caleb was visiting Davenport, Iowa.
Cyclists just started rolling up, cyclist after cyclist, and I thought like, oh, there must have been a race or something. But, 200 cyclists is a lot, 300 cyclists is a lot. But then next thing you know, there are thousands of cyclists, and you're just like, what is going on? What is this thing? I've never seen anything like this.
Caleb learned that this massive cyclist migration, it was something called RAGBRAI. And that stands for the Register's annual Great Bicycle Ride Across Iowa. It all kicked off in 1973, when a couple of riders for the Des Moines Register hopped on their bikes to document small-town Iowa charm by riding from one side of the state to the other. The next year, they did it again, with more people. Over the following 48 years, the RAGBRAI tradition expanded into a 7-day, 470-mile ride that now attracts between 10 and 20,000 participants annually. It's the oldest, largest, and longest recreational bicycle touring event in the world. Basically, it's a giant party on wheels. Each year, the route changes, so 8 towns along the route host RAGBRAI riders for the night. They allow participants to set up tents and food trucks in schoolyards or fairgrounds, and then open up their businesses and restaurants for the biggest economic boom they'll see in years. Farmers and homeowners along the way invite riders in for drinks and snacks, and people from all over the world fly to Iowa for this event. After his first interaction with RAGBRAI in Davenport, Caleb forgot about the event for several years. But in 2017, he started dating a girl who was getting into cycling.
So she said, I think I'm really going to do RAGBRAI. And I said, I've heard of that, but I still don't really know what it is. But I was like, yeah, I'll do RAGBRAI with you. That sounds cool. Like, I'll skate it.
Wait, hang on. Did you guys hear that too? He said, I'll skate it. It's a bicycle event. We asked Caleb to explain.
So I started skating when I was 5. Every kid skates when they're young, I think. And I really loved it. And then in 6th grade, trick skating became like really popular. It's when aggressive rollerblading kind of exploded onto the scene. And I started doing that and I loved that. And I did that for close to 20 years. So it was like mid-20s. A lot of my friends had stopped skating. You know, people were pursuing careers and families. Some of us were just tired of getting hurt. And I still really loved skating. So I started just skating around for fun, skating around for fitness, just trying to stay active and not quit skating.
And by skating, he means what most of us would call rollerblading. 3 wheels in a row.
Rollerblade is a company that makes inline skates. It's kind of like the whole Kleenex scenario, that Rollerblade became the first company to commercialize it. And so they essentially became one of the biggest companies in the world. So it was like Rollerblade, the brand.
Okay, back to RAGBRAI, skating edition.
So yeah, my partner said she wanted to do it. And I said, yeah. I did my best to plan. You know, I got a tent. I got the camping gear I thought I'd need.
Apart from getting some camping gear, Caleb didn't do much other research on what he'd need for the event.
When you register, you get your wristband, which gives you access to cheaper meals, things of that nature. But it also allows you access to the shower trucks and the baggage trucks, which are essentially just these semis. And you throw your gear on there and they'll carry it for you to the ending town. The first RAGBRAI I did, I was so unaware that I didn't even know to register.
He'd heard RAGBRAI lasted 7 days and bopped from town to town. He didn't know how many miles to expect between each town, but he requested time off work and logged some time in his skates in the months before the event started.
With the fitness skating I was doing 6 or 7 miles. Sometimes I'd do 10 miles. And at the time, being a trick skater, I'd never done anything like that. And I thought to myself, like, oh, heck yeah, like 10 miles. This is awesome. This is big. Like, I'm a fitness guy now. And I did one big skate before RAGBRAI that was 33 miles. And it went pretty well for me. And so I thought, like, I won't do any more like that again until RAGBRAI. That was a few months before RAGBRAI. Yeah, that was all it took for me to do it. It was just her saying, I think I'm going to do it. And I said, I think I'll try that too. But yeah, I was really surprised.
As RAGBRAI drew closer in the summer of 2017, Caleb's girlfriend at the time found a group to ride with and carry her gear. But since Caleb was skating rather than cycling, he didn't end up joining her group.
So the week before RAGBRAI, I found out I don't have any way of getting there or any way of moving my gear. I just started reaching out to people. Hey, who's going to RAGBRAI? Does anybody know where I can find a ride?
Because RAGBRAI is such a popular event in Iowa, he didn't have too much trouble finding a group to adopt him.
The team was Team Dude Storm. They were mostly musicians and artists. They had this big red RV van named Rosie that was like barely chugging along.
On the last Saturday in July, Caleb crammed into Rosie with Team Dude Storm, along with 8 people's gear, helmets, and bikes. They drove the 3.5 hours from Des Moines to Orange City, a small town near the western border of Iowa. That afternoon, they arrived at the school where they'd camp before RAGBRAI officially began the next morning.
And there was just tents and RVs for like as far as I could see, just like all the way down like the street, RVs and vans and vehicles parked with bikes, like so many bicycles.
Once Caleb pitched his tent in the schoolyard lawn, he joined his new friends as they explored Orange City, along with thousands of other giddy RAGBRAI riders. A cover band played from a main stage downtown. Food vendors handed tacos and burgers out of truck windows. The town opened their putt-putt golf course to riders, and they'd filled a stream in the course with water from the Missouri River.
So the tradition on RAGBRAI is on the first night, you dip your front tire into the water of the Missouri River. And then on the end of RAGBRAI, you dip your back tire into the Mississippi River. So where they had started RAGBRAI, it was like kind of dangerous to get to the river. So they had brought water in from the Missouri River and filled the putt-putt course to keep us cyclists and everybody from venturing off of the path and getting hurt.
Caleb ceremoniously dipped his front skate wheel into the water. So, Caleb, when you were out there for the first time walking around with your skates, was anyone like, bro, you're about to do this on rollerblades? Like, what are you thinking? Did anyone question you about that?
I don't think anyone had noticed yet. My team that I was with, they were hyping me up so hard. They were like, this is crazy. I can't believe you're doing this. Like, I don't think anyone on RAGBRAI had yet realized it, because when you're in the town, I mean, there's kids skating around, there's people on skateboards, there's people on every type of thing that come just to experience what's happening. They're not even going to do the ride. They're just there. And so I'm sure a lot of them thought I was just skating around to see what was going on. So nobody had yet questioned me about the skating.
Caleb and his team got some food and headed back to camp for the night. Caleb learned that tomorrow, the first day of the ride, 62 miles, twice what he had ever skated before. So he felt keen to get some rest.
I was planning on getting up earlier than all the cyclists, because they're kind of like, they get up at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and they mosey out. And I knew that I didn't know what I was getting into, so I wanted to get an early start just to have a better hand on it. I remember getting up, packing my tent and gear and stuff, and I put it in the van, and all the people on my team were still asleep. And I walked from the school to the edge of town, which was maybe like 8 or 10 blocks. It wasn't long. It was like a 10 or 15-minute walk, but I was like getting really nervous. And I walked to, it was basically the main road on the edge of town. And then there was a turnoff that led down a highway, which is where it started, I guess. And I sat down in this parking lot and just sat next to my skates for like, I don't know, 20 minutes maybe. I was so nervous.
Knowing it would get hot on the road, Caleb had packed a pair of basketball shorts and a pair of Speedo briefs for RAGBRAI.
And I had told myself I was going to skate in these briefs because it was supposed to be really hot. And I kept thinking like, yeah, this makes sense. And then Sunday morning, I'm like standing there in this parking lot in these like skin tight briefs. And I'm just like, what am I doing right now? And I was like so pre-embarrassed for what was about to happen to me for like the next however many miles. And I remember I was just looking down this highway and the sun was coming up and it was just like green on both sides, and the cyclists kept passing, coming this way and turning left and passing. And I was so nervous. I don't know. I sat there for so long, and then I finally I was like, I got to do this. I got to go. Like, I can't stay here all day. And I put my skates on and started to mosey down the road. It was crazy. That was it. It was like kind of the feeling of like jumping into the water. It was like, here we go. And then next thing you know, I was just doing it. Oh my God, like the first cyclist to pass me was just like, nice shorts. And it was just like, the briefs were, I mean, they were essentially briefs that were skin tight. And I remember I kept trying to like grab the thigh part and pull it down as if I would magically turn them more into shorts. No, they just kept riding right back up. And I was just like, this is it. And then I just kind of got into the skating, and it was like wild.
Within his first few miles on the road, Caleb caught up to speed on some RAGBRAI traditions. First, he learned it was custom to chat and exchange stories with other riders when they passed. Then he skated past the Mile of Silence, which is a mile in honor of cyclists that have been injured or killed on the road. And he discovered that even though RAGBRAI is a giant party on wheels, safety is no joke.
So as an aggressive skater, I had a history.
Caleb, you're going to have to define what aggressive skating means.
So there's inline skating, which is just what you would call regular rollerblading. And then there's aggressive inline skating, which is tricks, grinding down rails, doing half pipes, jumping off of things. And there's a super big stigma against helmets. Helmets are uncool. Don't wear helmets. They're whack. And so I kind of grew up with that mentality. And I ended up having 5 severe head injuries. And after the last one, the doctor was like, you shouldn't even really be alive right now. So I kind of had to start wearing a helmet all the time when I aggressive skated. But I got in this mentality of like, I'm not trick skating. I'm just regular skating. I'm just going down the road. I don't need a helmet. Like the helmet's going to be hot. I don't want to wear a helmet all day. That's nerdy. So I remember I brought my helmet, but I had it clipped to my little pack that I was carrying. And I was like, I'm not going to wear this. And right away, everybody was just like, hey, idiot, what are you doing? Put your helmet on. What are you like? That's not cool. What are you doing? Every cyclist was just like on me about it. And I realized like everyone on RAGBRAI wears a helmet. It changed my perspective. And now I'm a skater who wears his helmet all the time, no matter what.
Each day on RAGBRAI, riders pass through 5 to 10 small towns. The town closest to the halfway point gets designated the meeting town, so riders can reconvene with their groups, get some lunch, and rest before tackling the second half of the miles. Caleb found his girlfriend, and they decided to ride and skate together out of the meeting town. Caleb now wore his giant skating helmet, which covered his ears.
And she's on a bike, and I'm right next to her, and I can't hear what she's saying. It's like muffled. So I'm leaning like this and I'm putting my head in closer so I can hear her. And I'm not looking at the road. And my wheel went right into a tar snake. So when there's cracks in the road, they fill it with just tar and it creates this really sticky, gummy stuff. My wheel went right into this tar snake and it immediately, super fast, I was wiping out. I knew it, but I've done that for years. I have a lot of experience falling. And I was falling into her and I knew that I was going to wipe her out too, which would have not been good. So I kind of had to fall in this crazy way, like behind her. I ripped open 2 of my fingers, my knuckles, elbow. I hit my shoulder and I hit my knee and just like road rash all over my body. My knuckles were just like a big chunk. Half of my fingernail had broken off. And I don't remember if I said any expletives, but I remember thinking like, what the heck?
Caleb limped over to a bathroom station on a golf course nearby and washed his wounds in the sink. He wrapped his hand the best he could in paper towels and headed back to the highway.
That day was supposed to be 62 miles. And kind of the thing that I've learned on RAGBRAI is the mileage is never accurate and you're usually always doing more. And that day was, I want to say 68 or 69 miles. And I remember crawling to the end. The mileage I wasn't prepared for, but what I was even less prepared for was the climbing. I'm guilty, and I will admit that before RAGBRAI, I was one of those people that I was more inclined to think that Iowa is flatter than it is. You know, it's not very flat, like in the grand scheme of things. And so I was really unprepared for how much uphill skating I'd be doing. I just remember the last 10 miles. I was just like, I thought this was supposed to be over. Like it's 62. We're so far. And you're looking and you can start to see the town off in the distance and you're like, it's right there. Like, I just remember being like, this is forever. And as soon as I got into town, I pulled into a Casey's and I sat down and I took my skates off and I was like, I'm done. Like, it's like all the weight of the whole day right there, just like collapsing on me. And I was just like, ugh.
That first day ended in Spencer, Iowa. Exhausted, Caleb found his Team Dude Storm buddies, and they set up camp.
They were the guys that like every night, like you get off the ride and you feel the weight of the ride and like you're wrecked, your body's wrecked, but you're like, you know, an hour passes by and you're like, whoa, I made it. And you're like at campsite and like, we got snacks, we got food. One of my homies is there on a guitar. Like people are jamming. We're just like having a good time. And it's like you forget about all the struggle of the day and you're kind of riding the endorphins. You slide into this like magical realm where you're like, oh, wow, like that was awesome. That was way better than a day of work. Like that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but that was better than a day of work. Like I love that. Like I love this right now. I'm going to go camping right now, like, and wake up and do that again tomorrow. Like, yeah.
Day 2, Caleb started to find his rhythm in the skates. They rode from Spencer to Algona, 72 miles with 1,600 feet of climbing. Caleb's legs hurt from the day before, but he pushed up the hills and tried to rest on the downs.
Yes, you can brake by sort of dragging your foot sideways as if it's like a broom almost. In that way, your wheels, when they're going sideways, they can't spin, so they create friction that slows you down. So I did learn very quickly, like I never wanted to slow down on the hills. After climbing up to the top, like I wanted to enjoy every bit of the hill. So I would ride down it and like coast as far as I possibly could. And it was a learning experience with that too, because even coasting down a hill uses so many muscles that I had not like been prepared for, that like at a certain point that was wearing me out too. Everything was wearing me out.
Standing in his skates for 70 miles, Caleb had to figure out how to relax certain parts of his body while others held his weight.
First, it was my back. And then to correct my back, I'm now sitting kind of weird and using my thighs differently. And then my thighs start to cramp up. And then my calves start to cramp up. And then, it was that whole thing. And I played this game of like adjusting until I was comfortable enough to keep going.
But little Iowa treasures along the way kept Caleb moving forward, despite his aches and pains.
You come up to a farmhouse and it's like, well, these kids have prepared a build your own peanut butter and jelly station with like everything you can imagine. You get to the top of a hill and maybe there's a farmhouse and there's a cooler and they say, hey, it's an open bar, make yourself a drink.
In the meeting town on day 2, West Bend, the fire station had set up a giant swimming pool for RAGBRAI riders.
And I rolled right in and sort of unclipped and climbed into this swimming pool with all these people. And they were all cheering for me. And it was like, it was day 2. So everybody had already kind of been like, have you seen this guy on rollerblades? And so here I am like rolling into the middle town and they're like, yeah, come to the pool. And I rolled down and I got into this pool. And I remember it was just really relaxing and really nice. Everybody's sharing everything. They're sharing so much energy and positivity. And that's something I had never experienced on that scale. And that's like a treasure, I think, definitely to be recognized is the mass amount of positive energy that people have. Positive willpower to make sure everyone succeeds. Because I think everybody wants to see everyone succeed, like on the ride.
Day 3, Algona to Clear Lake, 51 miles. This day, Caleb decided to test out his basketball shorts instead of the Speedos.
And then I had a group of moms ride by and yell at me to go put my Speedos back on. So for the rest of the week, I wore those still.
At the end of day 3, Caleb swam with other riders in the beautiful lake near town, their spirits high to take on their 4th day of RAGBRAI. But on day 4, Caleb met an unexpected challenge. That's after the break.
So the Pacific Northwest in the summer it's why I live here. During the summer, I completely rage. Running, mountain biking, climbing, maybe 2 times a day. I get super hungry. I've been drinking kachava after a long ride or a training session as a way to nourish my body after trying hard. I find that adding it in to my routine, it either helps my afternoon crazy hunger crush or when I've skipped breakfast. It's incredible. Kachava's whole body meal shake keeps your mind and body nourished all day. With 2 scoops of kachava, you get 85 superfoods, nutrients, and plant-based ingredients. So not only am I getting 25 grams of plant-based protein, I'm also getting adaptogens and super greens at the same time. Kachava has 5 flavors to choose from, And I'm really digging the chai. Added bonus, there's no artificial flavors, colors, or sweeteners. I love it when I look on the bag and I know all the ingredients in there. Like, that's dope. Fuel your game at Kachava. Go to kachava.com and use the code DIARIES for 15% off your next order. That's Kachava, KACHAVA.com. Code DIARIES for 15% off. We'll throw a link in the show notes. So we just got back from hanging out on the beach in California, and it was like classic Northern California beach weather where it was a mix of fog, sun, and wind. And though we were really good at putting sunscreen on in the morning, sometimes we slipped in the afternoon, and it was like, why would I ever get burned? It's gray out. And then we got torched. Fortunately, we had Tern's Mayday, designed for when you've been exposed to the element. It has 3-time Tern's special marine-derived complex that speeds up skin regeneration and healing, and it helps minimize peeling and replenishes moisture. I like Tern's philosophy of maximum results, minimum routine. Having a go-to product that's good for my skin is awesome. After sun should not be an afterthought, especially at this time of year when we're all out doing the things we love and sometimes getting burned. Use the code DIRTBAG to get 25% off your first order at terns.com. We'll put a link in the show notes and you can try Terns for yourself. The Diaries is supported by Oboz. So Oboz set up camp in the legendary hiking and backpacking hub of Bozeman, Montana. There are literally millions of acres of peaks, valleys, rivers, and prairies, and even the greater Yellowstone ecosystem in their backyard. And Oboz basically turned it into a natural R&D lab. The updated Katabatic footwear collection is perfect for fast packing or quick day hikes. It's lighter and built with more environmentally friendly materials, and whether you're crossing creeks or trying to escape a thunderstorm while you're out on the trail, the waterproof style includes Gore-Tex Invisible Fit technology for enhanced breathability. I've been rocking the Katabatic LT out in the woods, and I love the lightness, but also the stability, which is kind of important for me when I'm carrying a pack. It makes me feel like I'm moving quickly on the trail. To find your next pair of footwear, check out obozfootwear.com/lovehiking. Oboz Footwear. Love hiking.
The next morning, Caleb had 57 miles to skate to the next town, Charles City. But by this point in the ride, he'd relaxed a little on his alpine starts and decided to hang out with his crew for a few hours over breakfast. So at 9:30 or 10, Caleb finally hit the pavement.
Less than 10 miles down the road, and it started storming. It started raining so hard. And I was going through a mental struggle I never went through. I never skated in the rain like that before, and my body was sore, and I was like really in a negative mind space. I was like, I can't do this. Like, it's raining. Why? I'm not going to make this. I need to stop. And there was a golf course country club that had opened up their country club and turned it into like a makeshift bar. All the cyclists were packed like sardines underneath these little, those little square tents, you know? And I remember getting under there, and I'm still in Speedos, and I'm like soaking wet, and my skates for like the last 5 miles have been just squishing water out with every stride. And I took my skates off, and I sat under this tent, and I felt like really broken and like disheartened. And I knew right then and there, I felt like I couldn't go on, and I don't know why. Like, I did not have the mental, it wasn't my body, it was my brain. I didn't have the mental willpower to go on.
After resting for a few minutes under the tent, Caleb chatted with the owner of the country club, and she offered to give Caleb a ride in her car to the meeting town. So he piled into the passenger seat, still sopping wet, and reunited with his teammates in the next town.
That was the moment where I was like, well, shoot, I'm not going to get my RAGBRAI. I had thought it was about getting the mileage, like doing the whole ride. That was the thing. And I was like, I'm not going to get it now. Like, I'm defeated. Like, what's the point now? And I remember being sort of bummed that day. And I got to the middle town, and I met up with the crew, and I got in Rosie, and I rode in Rosie to the end town because my skates were soaked. And I was like, I'm not going to skate anymore today.
By the time Caleb and his teammates pulled into Charles City, the rain had stopped. They set up camp on the edge of town.
And I had decided I was going to hammock camp that night. So I set up my hammock between 2 trees.
Turns out the hammock didn't help the back pain Caleb was having from so many hours in the skates.
And the next morning I woke up, and I tried to stand up, and I could not stand up. My back was like a broken C, and I was just like trying to stand, and my back kept tightening up like super hard. And I was like, I can't even skate today. Like, I got rained out yesterday. So I took that day off too. I ended up riding with another friend in Rosie, and we just like sort of talked about his RAGBRAI experiences and talked about like it is an experience that you can never be prepared for until you do it. And then you still never know what to expect. It's always like has these, happy moments, blissful moments, suffering moments, sad moments, angry moments, lonely moments. It's like you experience a whole spectrum of emotions. It's pretty spectacular.
Caleb, his friend, and Rosie arrived in Cresco at the end of day 5. After a couple days of rest, Caleb felt refreshed and motivated to finish out the miles on the final 2 days of RAGBRAI. Day 6 boasted 2,500 feet of climbing.
Every hill kept appearing, and you see this huge hill coming up in front of you on the road. And I was like, oh, here comes another one. And I was just like, I'm not going to stop. No matter what, if I just get up over this hill, like maybe there won't be more. And I never stopped.
The only time Caleb had to stop on a hill later that day was to help an older rider who'd stopped on the side of the road and was clearly struggling with heat exhaustion. Caleb and a few other riders, seeing that the man could barely respond to basic questions, called an ambulance.
RAGBRAI is a ride that's really enjoyable, but also it's like in a flash, it can turn into like an extreme thing. If you're not taking care of yourself, if you don't have water, if you're not like paying attention to what's happening, like it can quickly turn into like a serious event, whether that's wiping out or dehydration. And so it like, really dawned on me that this is like kind of a crazy feat.
On the final day, day 7, Caleb chipped away at the last 45 miles to Lansing.
I kind of like shrugged off the I failed feeling. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to finish this. I'm going to finish strong. I'm going to ride into this finish line.
But in those 45 miles, the riders had to climb 3,200 feet. That's the most up Caleb had ever done. But he took it one stride at a time, and false summit after false summit finally made it to the top of the last giant hill.
At the top of the hill, I climbed up a little grassy bluff where all these dudes were sitting. And it was like this group of dudes from Britain and South America and all over, just like talking about life. And I was like almost hyperventilating because I was like, my emotions were climbing super hard. And I got to the top of this hill and I'm like, not quite crying, but like wanting to cry. And then I remember sitting down with them being like, whoa, that like, this is insane. Like we're here. And that was kind of like the finish for me. For me, it was like incredibly overwhelming. And I remember going down that hill on the other side was just like wild. It was huge. I was going so fast for so long.
After the screeching downhill, Caleb skated, along with thousands of other riders, into the final town, Lansing, Iowa. To officially finish RAGBRAI, he had to dip his wheels into the Mississippi River.
I'm skating down the main street of this town, like right on the riverfront, and all these people are just on their porches, and they're all cheering, and they're cheering for you, and it's like kind of crazy, like kids out there giving out popsicles, and people are just like so elated, just like, congratulations, I can't believe it. The people almost kind of know what you've been through in like this weird way. And they're like, cheering you on. And so you're coming into the finish line and you're happy and you're like, this is over. But also you get hit with this instant sadness too of like, oh, I don't think I want this to be over. Like I'm about to leave all my friends. I'm about to leave this experience that I've been immersed in for so long. So you're in waves of like sadness of I don't want this to be over, but also relief that it's over. There's 2 photos of me at the finish line. I'm standing like at the bottom in the river, barefoot, my skates are in front of me. And the first one, I'm holding this skate flag over my head of this skating emblem that we have in Iowa. And in the second one, I'm like wiping my face. And I feel like those 2 images are like perfectly explain the feeling. The first one is like victory, yes. And the second one is like, you're almost crying because you're like, holy cow, like I can't believe all that just happened.
Since 2017, Caleb has been back every year to skate RAGBRAI, with the exception of 2020, which was canceled due to COVID. He figured out how to register, train for hills, and optimize his diet for peak performance. This past summer, he completed his 4th RAGBRAI and has even inspired others to skate the route. And though he's dialed his long-distance skating game over the years, Caleb still rocks the Speedo briefs and will forever look back on his first RAGBRAI as an unforgettable experience.
From the first moment where I sat nervous staring on that highway, I was staring at a highway, but I think I was more staring at this void that I was getting ready to go into, that I knew was something much bigger than just a ride across Iowa. And that void, that feeling, that magic of RAGBRAI sort of swept over me the whole course of the week. What RAGBRAI taught me about myself, willpower and mindset is like the most important thing. Like it's more important than physical strength or than anything else. Having control over your own mind and your own thoughts and keeping everything positive is like, will take you so much further than all the best equipment and all the best training. Like it's so much of it is mental, and RAGBRAI taught me that.
Since we first ran Caleb's story, he's gone back to do the RAGBRAI again. He and his wife Katie, who took some amazing photos that we'll be putting up on socials, rode the last 2 RAGBRAIs on a tandem bike. They volunteered with the RAGBRAI Dream Team, a nonprofit that mentors youth in cycling. And Caleb said he's met a lot of folks who heard the original diary story and decided to go do the RAGBRAI. And he's even become friends with a group that went on to ride the RASDAC in South Dakota and the BRAG, a bike ride across Georgia, together. If things go well, right now, Caleb should be just about finished with this year's RAGBRAI. This time on a regular old bike. Thank you, Caleb, for sharing your story. So, Caleb recently started his own discipline of inline skating, which is pretty badass, called ultra skating. A few weeks ago, he skated 502 miles from Des Moines to Chicago. Mind is blown right now. He's now sponsored by several companies and helps new skaters find their stride on the pavement. If you're interested in skating, or even if you're not, make sure you check out Caleb's Instagram. His handle is Kale Boston. That's Kale Boston. Trust me, it'll make you smile. Music today from Ken Christensen, Bradley Carter, Kevin MacLeod, John Barry, and Brennan O'Connell. The tracks are courtesy of the Artists or Free Music Archive. Jacob Bain and Nis Cotto composed our theme song. You can find links to the artists at our website, dirtbagdiaries.com. This episode was produced by Cordelia Zars and Ashley Langholtz and edited by Becca Cahal. Illustration by Walker Cahal, graphics by Anya Miller. Becca Cahal is also our executive producer. I'm Fitz Cahal, and you've been listening to the Dirtbag Diaries. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to And Then What, the segment where we break down the headlines and figure out what the hell's happened since then. Through the years, we've covered Minnesota's Boundary Waters. It's an incredible place, and chances are you've even been there because it is our country's most visited wilderness area. For the better part of 2 decades, there's been an ongoing battle over copper mining, one of the most aggressive, hard to clean up, and polluting types of mining out there, at the very top of the headwaters. Through it all, the campaign to save the Boundary Waters has been hard at work gathering support, doing work at the local, state, and national level. And in 2023, it looked like they'd managed to secure a lasting victory by building a coalition and outpouring of support that spanned political parties. And then, well, let's find out what happened. And it's not all bad. Today we talk with Ingrid Lyons, Executive Director of Save the Boundary Waters. Ingrid, you all have had a very busy spring, but first I want to take a moment and ask, how do you describe the Boundary Waters and this project you've been working on for so many years to the people who haven't been there?
The Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness is one of the most unique parcels of public land, I believe, in our entire country. The amount of water is truly mind boggling. It is deeply interconnected freshwater. It's not often that you get to traverse an inland landscape by boat. When you include everything, all the landscape that sort of makes up canoe country, we're talking about the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness, but we're also talking about Canada's Quetico Provincial Park, as well as Voyageurs National Park. And when you put it all together, it's about 4.4 million acres of this extremely unique type of ecosystem. So, I mean, I think it's really hard to wrap your mind around it. And so we're always encouraging of people to, get in a canoe and join us and experience the place firsthand. The project that Save the Boundary Waters has been working on for about a decade is really the effort to prevent the development of copper mining in the watershed of this incredibly unique, broad ecosystem. This is not the place for America's most toxic industry, which the EPA has found to be hard rock mining, which copper mining is. This copper mine is proposed on the doorstep of the Boundary Waters, which is the headwaters of essentially this entire watershed in the 4.4 million acre freshwater ecosystem. Even just hearing about it, people immediately understand why this is the wrong place for this type of highly destructive mining.
The battle over this copper mine has gone back and forth and back and forth. At the end of the Biden administration, it seemed like maybe we were past this. Maybe this was kind of like a done deal. What happened next?
So we were really thrilled when in 2023, Interior Secretary Deb Haaland put in place a 20-year ban in the watershed of the Boundary Waters. We were sort of bracing ourselves for a second Trump administration. And it's not because this issue is meaningfully partisan. It has become a political football at the administrative level. But when you look at polling, this issue polls really well, and it polls across partisan divides. I mean, I think that's a pretty typical story these days, that outdoor recreation and public lands and access to public lands poll really favorably across the country. In Minnesota, 70% of Minnesotans want to see this landscape permanently protected. The Obama administration had started a study and a process for withdrawing these lands. The Trump administration stopped that process. Biden administration got it back going. And so we're expecting and sort of gearing up for another big fight. And we got it.
How did you guys respond? And what happened right out of the gate when the new administration came in?
We went in eyes wide open, expecting full well that the steps of progress that we'd made, especially in the Biden administration, would be overturned. It was also in Project 2025. If you took the entirety of the Project 2025 sort of blueprint document and you Command F for Minnesota, the only mention of our state was about the revocation of this 20-year mining ban and opening the Superior National Forest in northeastern Minnesota up to copper mining. And so we've tracked about 20 relevant executive orders pertaining to national security, need for boosting of domestic mineral supply, the sort of like creation of this very complex network of sort of administrative directives aimed at opening America's public lands to destructive mining. No matter the administration, we meet with folks in the Forest Service, the Department of Interior, the Department of Agriculture, the relevant folks who are so critical in the decision making, and the folks who are the ones really tossing this football back and forth. And so we have been able to meet with the administration on a few occasions. And that's something that I think is really important to do, even if you kind of know you're going into a meeting with a brick wall.
Right out of the gate, you guys had a win, right? The rescinding of the mining ban was included actually in the budget bill, and you were able to remove that out. Like almost out of the gate, working with a House of Representatives that is Republican controlled, you were able to get that out of the House bill. And then what happened?
The reconciliation fight was a big one. The coalition really came together. Advocates really came together to use the process in our favor. I mean, the Boundary Waters language in reconciliation didn't belong there. And that was always clear. There's a lot of stuff that, maybe doesn't belong in reconciliation that managed to stay in. And so it was really gratifying to have champions like Senator Tina Smith and Representative Buddy McCollum really standing strong for the Boundary Waters. That was a really wonderful development. Actually, I was in Washington, D.C. when the House reconciliation bill had the boundary waters language removed, and was there the day that the Senate language came out and the boundary waters wasn't in it. And I was actually at the airport because I was about to fly home after, 3 days of advocacy in Washington. One of my team members texts me and she says, "Have you seen this tweet?" Like, what tweet? And lo and behold, the Secretary for the Department of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, had tweeted the very same day that Boundary Waters was officially out of reconciliation, that she and Interior Secretary Doug Burgum were beginning the process to overturn the 20-year ban on copper mining in the Superior National Forest. In the same breath, they also said that they had completed a process that clearly indicated that there was no need for the mineral withdrawal in the first place, including robust public input that pointed in that direction, which is all very confusing to us because, we've had no awareness of any process relating to undoing this mineral withdrawal. There's been no public comment meetings, no official notices in the Federal Register.
So what I almost hear you politely saying there is that they were just actually lying.
Yeah.
Like that they were sort of saying we'd done all this work and that this has all happened. And really they didn't like the outcome of what happened in the democratic institutions of Congress. And then they sort of made up a story where they're like, we're going to do this because we've done all this research, had all this public input, and it all says to remove this, when in fact none of that's happened. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's totally right. This is not how we create policy about public lands. One tweet, one inaccurate, callous tweet is how we determine the future of America's most visited wilderness. I think it's a really abhorrent precedent.
The Boundary Waters is this economic driver for the communities up there too. And so it's not just, right, like, I guess in your mind, like, this doesn't just seem like a tweet about public land management, but it's about people's livelihoods, their heritage. Do you feel like your community's waking up? Because obviously this is something that a lot of people in northern Minnesota worked really hard to protect and care for.
One of the things that really keeps me, I think, grounded and energized in this work is that this community is awake the vast majority of the time. They are really tuned in. They are there. They are ready to go. They are supportive. And I think, there's a lot of uncertainty. They're riding this roller coaster too, but it's, it's where they live. It's the outfitter on Main Street whose clients are canceling trips because, they're not sure what's going on and what the sentiment is up there. So there's a deep level of uncertainty. And it's the best thing about my job is seeing people so motivated and so passionate about protecting this place.
What can we do to support you? Like, are there ways we can help sort of you push back against this?
Something that I hear in Washington fairly often that frustrates me is this is a local issue. Mm-hmm. Representatives and senators say that to me all the time. This is a local issue. We don't want to get involved. And so what folks can do is make sure that their elected officials know that you care about the boundary waters, even if you've never been. And on principle, you want to protect the boundary waters. It's really important to ensure that people understand that this is an issue that affects us all and also has really powerful potential to set precedent for other really iconic American landscapes or even less iconic American landscapes. I mean, I think to your point, this is America's most visited wilderness, but it's also obscure to a lot of people. But at the end of the day, it's about a concept, right? It's about protecting the natural spaces. It's about protecting fresh water. I think people can help in a lot of different ways, but really just making it known that people from across the country want to see this place protected is enormously helpful to us.
So what actionable steps can you take? First off, there's a high likelihood that after the administration's defeat, they will attempt to put the mining in the boundary waters back on the table through a bill in Congress. And as we just saw in the public land sell-off battle, we've seen that public input in Congress matters. In the meantime, let's help this campaign keep growing on a national level.
Follow Save the Boundary Waters on social, sign up for their newsletters, and consider making a donation. We're posting these pieces on our website, dirtbagdiaries.com, in case you want to share. And then what? Thanks to Diaries Plus members for making this reporting possible. Links are on our website and in the recent show notes. Thank you for caring about public lands.